Are joining, so let's start.
Okay, nice. So then welcome everyone to our webinar today, hosted by Vermut Asset Management. We will have a short introduction round very quickly. And yes, first of all, thank you for making the time in our busy calendars to be with us for the next 45 minutes. We will be presenting one of our portfolio companies, Hardt Hyperloop. And yeah, we will be talking about the latest news and developments on Hyperloop, and you will get to know the wonderful team. Yes, so first of all, from Vermut Asset Management, we have Ivan here to our side, who will be co-hosting this event with me. And then we have Jochen, who will now start and tell us a bit about what Vermut Asset Management is all about.
Thank you, Eva. This was Eva Rasch, in case you haven't noticed. She forgot to say who she is.
Thank you for introducing me.
Yes, so Eva is a serial entrepreneur who kindly joined us as a venture partner. And yeah, so welcome to Vermut Asset Management. We used to have, as we just discussed, annual investor meetings in person, starting on the Rhine, moving on to the Spree as we moved from Mainz and Wiesbaden to Berlin. And then we had a few online seminars. We're now back to doing quarterly online and once a year in person. We are climate impact investors. That is, our aim in life is to reverse climate change. In case you haven't noticed, there's a big meteorite hitting the world. Current forecast is 3 degrees warming by 2050, which is equivalent to half the population dying. So that's the negative news, but we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the solutions. We believe the force is with us. The market forces are behind a transition to a sustainable future. You can make a lot of money and do well. We are therefore focused on companies which we call exponential organizations, as Singularity University does, companies that can grow exponentially and have a positive impact on reversing climate change. And Hyperloop is one of them, and therefore we're very happy to have both the Hardt Hyperloop team, the specific company we chose to invest in, and Klaus Rudischauer from the greater Hyperloop association, including all of the Hyperloop companies really in the world almost, certainly in Europe for now. So yeah, so thank you very much for being here, and we are going to tell you why Hyperloop is a wonderful company.
Maybe you can tell a few words why we have chosen Hardt Hyperloop. I mean, as a typical VC, we're going over hundreds of different companies, and we're choosing best. I mean, as asset managers, we're choosing the best company for our portfolio. Why have we invested into Hardt Hyperloop?
Yeah, so one of the most important, I was very lucky to study under Professor Merlis, got the Nobel Prize for incentive theory a while ago. And one of the most important things I learned is that when you make investments, you should always be sure that you don't depend on things you don't control. And for example, with solar energy, we were for many years dependent on subsidies. We waited until it broke grid parity when it was become profitable to invest in solar. You may have heard that in Pakistan, 50% addition to the power capacity happened in the last 6 months based on private investments only from individuals without subsidies, without any government support whatsoever. And with Hyperloop, we believe we're in the same position. Unlike the German rail system, where hundreds of billions are invested into infrastructure every year, and even though that's a gift to German rail still makes a loss almost on operating profits. And Hyperloop, the whole system is profitable. That is, we can, as private investors, put in place the system, we put it in place quickly, and we can make a lot of money. But that doesn't mean you should be investing in this space. Graham and Dodd and Warren Buffett always pointed out that everybody knew that airlines was going to be a great trend, but nobody ever made money in airlines. Why do we think we can make money in Hardt Hyperloop? We believe Hardt is an amazing team. I happen to have the luck that my son did an internship there 7 years ago, so we know the company inside out for many years. And we met Tim at the Bonn COP, so we know him for many years. And having known them for many years, we figured out that these are people with aligned values, which is a value to serve others, a value to do good for the planet, and most importantly, to do it making profits. And to make profits, you have to have what we call a moat, a Wassergraben around your castle, so to speak, to defend the core competences. And the core moat or the key patterns of Hardt Hyperloop is a suspension from above rather than from below, which means you can switch lanes without having any moving pieces. This is a key competitive advantage. We believe the global Hyperloop system will not exist without the core ingredients from Hardt Hyperloop, and therefore we chose them. We also have seen a major transition from the founders to a professional team, including the founders, rather than having the founders kicked out, and that's very encouraging because that's the people we like, and that's why we chose them.
We mentioned Hyperloop a few times, but maybe we should have a first poll. Why do we need the Hyperloop? And see what audience think. Yeah, the first poll.
Okay, we get to do a poll.
Okay, so everyone should now see on their screen our first poll, which is why do we need a Hyperloop? So feel free to give your opinion here.
Host and panelists can't vote. That's rough.
Yes. Yes, and also while you're already in front of your screen now, if first questions came up from your side already, feel free to post any question you have into the chat or write it down for you now, because at the end of the webinar, we will have a little Q&A, and we will hopefully be able to answer all of your questions. If time runs out and we will still have open questions, you will definitely receive an answer from us later in an email.
Okay, interesting. So
no questions will be left unanswered.
So the answer was the majority voted for the high-speed mode of transportation. Interesting. And maybe that's a question to Deborah. So Deborah, what do you think? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think I would say all three of the answers are valid. Definitely high speed. So it depends a little bit on how you fit the tubes into the existing infrastructure. But let's say on average, you could go up to 700 kilometers an hour. So that is a very high speed travel, but also in a very comfortable way. And in a very sustainable way. So it's about 10 times more energy efficient. There's no emissions if you fuel it with sustainable energy. And there's no noise. It's quite affordable. So it's cheaper than high-speed rail to maintain and operate. And, you know, we all want high-speed travel, and the capacity for international travel is expected, or at least the demand is expected to double for up to 2050. But existing systems can't really serve that need because air travel is limited by airport capacities, and most airports are already hitting their capacity limits. And to expand that, they bump into a lot of resistance from people around the airport because of noise and other problems. And trains have a fixed capacity defined by the rail system itself and how many trains can pass. So yeah, all three of the answers are actually correct.
Yeah, and yeah, now maybe Tim, explain us what is Hyperloop. So maybe not all people aware what it is, how it functions, and what it is.
Yeah, super.
And maybe the most pressing question, how far are we from our first trip with a Hyperloop?
Exactly. Let's go over them. So first of all, a Hyperloop, you can see it as sort of a train that's running through a tube. And in the tube, there is almost no air, so therefore there is no air resistance. You can achieve these very high speeds of around 700 kilometers an hour for this very limited energy usage. Let me get up a visual to get you an idea on what this would look like. Let me know if you can see the screen. Super. Yeah, so here you can see the implementation of the system where the Hyperloop can be implemented underground, but also above the ground. And then also alongside the existing infrastructure. So here it's in the middle of the Deutsche Autobahn, but it can also be implemented, for example, next to a railway line, where you just put some columns there, you put the tubes on top, and that's how you build the system. If you look to some key routes and travel times that could be enabled by Hyperloop, You're thinking about the traveling time between Barcelona and Rome, which is around 2 hours. You can go from London to Zurich in 1.5 hours. For our US people in the call, from New York to Washington, of around half an hour. So it really slashes down the travel times, but also in a much more energy efficient way without any CO2 emissions. And of course, for an affordable ticket price. So those are the key elements of the system. And then getting back to your question, Eva, when can we travel with the system? If you look to the projects that are now in development all across the globe, they're all targeting around 2029, 2030 to have a first demo route operational. So it's not a route of hundreds of kilometers, but a route of a couple of kilometers where you and I and our audience, we can step in and experience a first ride and really experience what it would look like to travel in a Hyperloop.
Look, there was an article in Bild in a newspaper saying that Hamburg is going to build the first Hyperloop route ever. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, definitely. And we're actually also quite involved in the project. We even organized an own Hyperloop event in Hamburg 2 weeks ago. And Hamburg actually has the ambition to build an initial Hyperloop demo line and then connect it to Kiel. And this plan was also part of their bid to host the Olympic Games in 2036. So that would mean a route of around 100 kilometers. The travel time would be less than 15 minutes. And now it's like
less than
1 hour and 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah, 15.
Yeah. Sound like 50. 15. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and that's from one sea to the other, from the North Sea to the East Sea, the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, so that just shows the potential, and the Olympic Games will be hosted between Hamburg and Kiel as a co-host. And this Hyperloop line connection provides the fast connection between the cities. And prior to this longer connection, Hamburg has the ambition to build a demo line of a couple of kilometers, up to 4, where the system can be fully proven and people can experience what it is like. And then if they get the Olympic bid in hand to actually host it, that route can be extended towards the full route towards Kiel.
Yeah, and maybe the question is to Klaus. The next one, I mean, since we're talking cities and countries, so this idea has been in works for a number of years. So why now? Why it's getting more attention and is getting more focus from different governments now today?
And maybe distinction between Hardt and your organization, Klaus, so people know the difference.
Yes, well, I speak for the Hyperloop Development Program, which is a nascent industry association. We talk about the nascent industry, and we are the Nascent Industry Association. So we speak for all Hyperloop promoters, be they developers or be they future clients, be they infrastructure companies, etc. Now, to your question, Ivan, it's true the idea has been around for about 100 years. But why now? Because now most of the people who have been working on this are just a few years from presenting a real product. That means Hyperloop now is not the far future, it's the near future. Now, why should we do it now? Number one is the transport sector, as Deborah has said, is growing and growing. We have more freight transport, more persons transport. And the transport sector is the sector which is performing worst on trying to control climate change. The transport sector has not made the same success as other sectors. And therefore, because it's growing and because it's not climate friendly, the transport sector is going to be the problem child of the fight against climate change. And Hyperloop, and that's the first and most important argument, I think, Hyperloop has the potential to really help transport solutions be more sustainable, much more sustainable. It will not replace other transport modes, but it will add an additional transport mode that can take on capacity, that can really be sustainable, that will not contribute to climate change at all. And therefore, that's the first argument. The second one is, as I said, we do have this growth in transport and we have to handle it. If we want to stay competitive as Europe, we also have to handle our transport problems, and public budgets are at their limits. Now, we will see a bit later that the Hyperloop does not only depend on public budgets, it can be financed privately. And that is why it is a solution. If public budgets are overstretched for the current infrastructure like highways and trains, Hyperloop offers a real answer. And the final argument is also that it's fair, it's easy, and it doesn't consume a lot of land. And in Central Europe, we don't have that. So you can build Hyperloop. That means you can build new infrastructure using less land, not destroying the environment, because you can put it either underground or on pods above the ground, for example, above highways, as the image that Tim has shown. And that means we are not going to consume more land. And that's very important for the people. Yes, they want to travel, they want to transport, but they don't want to destroy the environment. And so it's a very good argument that Hyperloop will not have the same land use impact as a high-speed train line, for example. So I think I will just leave it with these three arguments, but I think they show very well that Hyperloop is a real addition to the current transport system, and it has a huge potential to become a new and innovative industrial sector. And in Europe, with our situation of competitivity and of the need to make industry greener, this is really also a very important argument for Hyperloop. And that's why the moment is ripe now, because we are very near to deploy Hyperloop. In just a few years, we can offer real solutions and we can kick off.
Yes, and Klaus, this is not only your opinion, but this is also what probably led to the fact that you had very good chances at the Hyperloop competition. Maybe you want to say a few more words on this.
Well, I will just say that there are Hyperloop competitions ever since like 10 years. And Europe has always scored very well. What is the main point, I think, is that there is Hyperloop development in other parts of the world, like in Korea, in Turkey, in China, in India, in the US, in Canada. But at this very moment, Europe is still leading on technology. And that's why not only are we very well placed, but we also are a very promising proposal for European industry.
Maybe if I can add something, Eva, because I realized that we skipped the introduction part, but Tim is a co-founder of Hardt, and there was a whole team who won the first Hyperloop competition organized by Elon Musk. And it was a very big team of students, and 4 of them founded Hardt. And Tim is one of them, which is very a major achievement, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm, by the way, on the supervisory board of Hardt Hyperloop, and I'm also a professor at the Delft University of Technology.
Good point. Thank you, Deborah. Klaus, if you want to take a moment as well to say 2 words about yourself as well.
Well, it's very, very straightforward. I am an ecologist by background. I was a top official of the European Commission. I know how to introduce and to promote new technologies. And I'm really fascinated to represent Hyperloop now. This is really a very, very interesting task, a very future-oriented task. And therefore, I am fascinated, and I firmly believe in this. I have a lot of experience. I'm the oldest one around this table, and I have seen a lot in my life, but I can tell you, I firmly believe that Hyperloop is a real game changer. It's something that has not existed for the last 100 years in the transport area.
Tim,
yes.
Tim, maybe you explain how it works. How does it really work? What is the technical aspects of the Hyperloop?
Yes, let me also share my screen to give you an idea on
and
what
a brief intro. How did you? Why?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So as a brief intro, as Deborah mentioned, I'm Tim.
Why do you get up in the morning?
Of the company. I'm a mechanical engineer by background, but for the company, I've always focused on the right strategic partnerships and also the investments of our company. And what really drives me about Hyperloop is just the tremendous impact that we are able to generate with the system, connecting people, connecting societies in a much quicker and a much more sustainable way. I think that's really needed, and that's also the thing that drives me to get up in the morning. To get back to the question on how the system works, as you see here, the vehicle is traveling through that pipe. And since there is no air in that pipe, you can achieve these high speeds of around 700 kilometers an hour for very limited energy usage. It's like 10 times less energy compared to traveling with an airplane. The vehicles can transport both passengers or cargo. And they're actually a bit smaller than full trains. So think about vehicle compartments that transport between 40 to and maybe even 50 passengers per vehicle. Now, those vehicles, they are levitated and they are propelled magnetically. So that means that there is no mechanical contact, there is no friction, no wear and tear of the infrastructure. And that significantly reduces the operational cost. And that makes it also such an attractive investment case from an infrastructure point of view. The system is also fully autonomous, so you don't need to pay for pilots, which also helps in the operational cost, and it completely removes the human error. And next to that, since you are traveling inside this pipe, you can imagine that you are completely protected from any outside effects. So heavy winds, heavy rainstorms, heavy snowstorms. In the Netherlands, there's this problem with leaves on the railway lines that block the trains. With the Hyperloop, this is all not of an issue. And therefore, you also have a much more reliable system compared to traveling, for example, with airplanes or with the trains. And then last but not least, the Hyperloop permits lane switching without any moving components in the infrastructure. And it allows for a significantly higher transportation capacity inside the infrastructure. And because there are no moving elements, it's also a more reliable system and a system that requires less maintenance. So that a bit on the technical explanation. Just to get an idea for what it would look like if you would travel in the system. Like this is an animation of entering a Hyperloop vehicle on a Hyperloop station. And it's a trip between Amsterdam to Berlin, which will take you less than 1 hour. So you just enter the vehicle as if you're entering, for example, an airplane. And this happened through a so-called airlock. So that means that the vehicle can stay inside the pipe, inside the low pressure environment, and it does not have to get out of this low pressure environment. And that enables that the passengers can get in and out in the quickest way, and the vehicle can depart very quickly after it has arrived at the station. You do have to buckle up to adhere to the latest safety standards. And then the vehicle just accelerates you up to its top speed. This acceleration is comparable to the acceleration that you know from trains and airplanes, but without the heavy noise of aircraft engines, without the shaking of the steel wheels on the steel rail tracks. So it's a very comfortable and smooth acceleration. Your coffee can stay on your table in front of you, and it brings you just up to speed of this around 700 kilometers an hour and bring you to your final destination in no time.
Thank you, Tim. Maybe 2 words, you said it a little bit earlier. So there is also a place already where you can go and actually see first types of a Hyperloop. So to who is it accessible, who can go and see it?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the European Hyperloop Center. That is among the first test facility in Europe that can demonstrate the full system. It's in the north of the Netherlands. And we have to make arrangements to show it to people, but we're very happy to do so. And it just shows that it's not only a concept on paper and nice visuals, but actually also the working technology of the system.
Yes, thank you, Tim.
Deborah, so I understand that magnetic levitation trains exist. What's the difference?
Yeah, I think some of the points were already highlighted by Tim. So a big difference is it's in a tube, so it's a closed environment, making sure there's no leaves or there's no disturbances from bad weather. But especially because of the low pressure in the tube, there's little air resistance and therefore 10 times more energy efficient. So that is definitely a huge benefit compared to the normal maglev trains. And then Tim touched upon it, the switch. There are no moving parts in the switch. And the benefit of this becomes really apparent when you see it. and we have a short movie illustrating what a switch in a magnetic train looks like. And I really find this unbelievable that you develop a high-speed transport system, but then the switch works like this, right? You can totally imagine that this limits capacity and introduces many safety issues. So what happens in the European Hyperloop Center, in that test facility, we have one tube that splits into two. You can see it here. It's about 440 meters. And the split has the no moving part switch. And we have a short video clip what it looks like on the inside when the vehicle is traveling through the tube. You can see it here, and now the tube is splitting, and now we're in only one part of the tube. So it's a very smooth, no moving part switch, basically.
Thanks, Deborah. Yes. And you had 2 more slides you wanted to show us from the Hyperloop side.
These were the main slides.
Some interesting. Yes,
yeah.
Tim?
No, these were the main slides to show the technology and that show that it's actually working, and not only a theoretical concept, but actually a physical system that is up and running now and ready for further expansion. Very
nice, thanks. Yes, I think we can all imagine now what it would look and feel like to actually be traveling with a Hyperloop. Okay, so we have prepared another poll. Is that correct, Ivan?
Yeah. So since Klaus mentioned other countries, other continents, let's have another poll and see what the audience think. So which country will be the first to implement a Hyperloop?
In the EU, yes.
Yes, in the EU. Yeah, and in the meantime, maybe Klaus, maybe you can say a few words. What would it change in Europe?
Yes, sure.
What are the investments? What are the numbers? What are the passengers per kilometer? What are the emissions? Like how Europe will change with the Hyperloop implemented everywhere?
I think, Klaus, one of the most fascinating things you said when I heard you at the Hyperloop Center was the idea that this is not to replace the rail system, but if you have a functioning Hyperloop system, you actually have 4 times more demand for rail. That's pretty cool, I thought. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, as we all know, it's the attractivity of a transport mode that makes very much how attractive it is. And then there is the speed argument. Let's take an example. If you want to travel today from Amsterdam to Berlin by train, we have high-speed trains now all over Europe, but the reality is it takes you 8 to 10 hours to travel by train from Amsterdam to Berlin, or the same from southern Germany to Hamburg, and even more so if you go across the borders. And that means that what happens today is that if someone has to travel more than 500 kilometers, the choice will almost always be the airplane. Now, we all know that an airplane is very polluting, and we also know that we are still a long way away from non-polluting airplanes, if we ever get them. And the high-speed trains are providing a good alternative in some European countries, but in others, in the more densely populated, they don't. And that means we don't have a transport mode that is on the one hand sustainable and on the other hand quick. And with a Hyperloop, you can actually do 1,000 kilometers in 1.5 hours, as you would do in an airplane, but without pollution, without waiting at the airports, without traveling to the airports. And so what would change, I think, is that we could reduce very strongly short-haul aviation. and everybody knows it's convenient, but it's very polluting, and we could really offer a much better solution. Then we can take off passengers from high-speed trains that are very necessary, but for the long distances, they don't really provide a good answer. And obviously, we will take people away from the highway, and as we all also know, highways are congested. They're very sensitive to extreme weather conditions. So we really add an option which did not exist until now. We add something really new, and that will make a big change. I think that once we start deploying the system and people can see the advantages, it will really be a game changer. We will keep what we have in terms of infrastructure and public, and the countries and the public budgets are very busy to keep the current infrastructure, but we add what we need in order to pick up the growth of traffic, and we add something that is really much more favorable in terms of climate change. So the big change, I think, will be that this will be a very attractive mode of transport for longer distances, beyond 500 kilometers. And it has a lot of other advantages. For example, the high-speed rail is high speed because it only stops at very few stations. And that means that vast territories in our countries are not connected to the high-speed train network. Even regional capitals are not connected to the high-speed rail system. And with Hyperloop, we have a very good solution to do that, because a train is not physically linked up. You can put the people that want to go to one specific place into one carriage, and that carriage can leave the train without the main train stopping. That means your train will run from Stuttgart to Berlin without stopping, but the people who want to get out before will be in carriages that will leave the train before. And so you can actually also connect and develop a good infrastructure for regions who today are disconnected, who are not very well connected to major capitals. And so we can also have an impact on spatial planning, because it means that the big cities do not need to grow endlessly. People could live outside the big cities in areas where it's nicer and more affordable. And we can stop the not ending growth of the big cities, of the megalopolis. And that's also, I think, from especially in Europe, from a regional planning point of view, is very, very, very important aspect.
Thanks.
And there are
Excellent.
some others.
Excellent. We're running a bit out of time, so
yeah, sure.
But I'm supposed to ask Tim how he's going to make money quickly, if you don't mind, Klaus.
Yeah, sure.
I just stuck up in Hamburg and said, I love this because it's 10 times less energy than a plane. It's 10 times safer than a plane, and you make 100 times your money. So that's our hope, that with our investment, we can make 100 times our money. So if you invested 100,000, you wouldn't just make 1 million, you'd make 10 million, and you'd be financially independent. So worthwhile doing. Tim, why are you going to make any money? And quickly, we're running out of time. We have 9 minutes to wrap up. So how are you going to make some money quickly? Thank you.
Yeah, super. Let me handle that quick. So if you look to the total market of the Hyperloop on an annual basis, and that's just the construction of the infrastructure and also the delivery of the vehicles, we expect it to be almost 200 billion. Where we as Hardt Hyperloop, we really focus more on the vehicle elements and some key technologies inside the vehicle, such as the magnets, the drives, and also the tracks in the infrastructure. And if you then take a conservative market share of around 33% and our vehicle share, we expect to be able to achieve a income of 7 billion on an annual basis, just by delivering these components and our services. Here you see them in a bit more detail. So the elements of the magnets, the drives, and the tracks. Basically the projects that are now emerging in Germany, but also in the rest of parts of the world, in Italy, for example, even in India. They can just buy these products from us, and we'll deliver them to make sure it is like one properly operational Hyperloop system.
So the main idea is to develop a certain IP, intellectual property, and then benefit from that intellectual property.
Exactly. It gives us a very strong position for actually the supplying of these kind of products, where it's very difficult for others to get in, because we also have a strong IP position on it. We have around 10 patents in total, They're on, for example, the lane switching system, which is a very strong one, but also on the suspension system of the Hyperloop, the propulsion system. So this really solidifies our technical position into this Hyperloop technology market.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Do we have any numbers, like maybe there's a question from the audience, cost per kilometer, or maybe we know the energy per passenger per kilometer, or any CapEx ideas.
In terms of energy per passenger per kilometer, we're at around 35 to 40 watt hours per passenger per kilometer traveled. And if
How
you
does it
compare
compare
this
to
with
rail?
aviation, that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
10 times larger. So you're it depends, of course, on your airplane, but it ranges between 300 to even 500 watt hours per passenger kilometer traveled. And then if you look to the cost of the implementation of the infrastructure, it's expected to be a bit cheaper or comparable to high-speed rail. It's of course very dependent on where you actually deploy the infrastructure, because that determines how much groundwork needs to be done, which is a great booster of the price of the system. But on average, we calculate with around 30 million per kilometer, and that includes total of the Hyperloop infrastructure, but also the vehicles and the stations that are with it. But this price per kilometer is very dependent on where it's actually going to be built. You even see that in high-speed rail, you have projects that on some places they are 20 million per kilometer on average, and at other places they are 200 million per kilometer on average. So that just shows the range that it can have depending on the location. But overall, Hyperloop should be competitive or a bit cheaper compared to building high-speed rail instead, which is driven by the low land use and also the prefabrication of the pipe segments. So you can industrialize that fully. You just put the pipes at the location where you want to build the infrastructure, bolt them together, and that's how you build it out. So that just requires much less manual work on site, which speeds up the implementation and reduces the costs.
And Ivan asked, what was the kilowatt hours per the train compared to Hyperloop? So Hyperloop was 35. What did you say?
Yes, 10 times less. It's 10 times less. 10 times more energy efficient than air. But how is it compared to train?
Yeah, that's like 2 to 3 times more energy efficient. While you of course go also 2 or 3 times the speed.
Faster,
so
yeah.
that just shows the benefit that it has, which is because there is like a very limited air resistance, which a train of course has.
So what you're saying is that a government or regional government which is planning a new route have a choice building a rail, standard rail, or high-speed rail, or building a Hyperloop, and a lot of parameters are voting for Hyperloop.
Sorry, Ivan, can you repeat?
Like Deborah said yes.
Yes, definitely, fully agree. It's a good summary, Ivan. It's,
yeah, so basically,
it's on all from whatever perspective you look at it. Hyperloop comes out really well in the in a comparison.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we need government officials who sort of have a long-term vision and also see the economic benefit, because we didn't discuss that. We touched upon it slightly, but if you connect two major economic hubs, two big cities, and with the Hyperloop system, as Klaus explained, you can easily make a stop with one vehicle in a smaller location without stopping the rest. You can just exit the main tube, stop at a small station and continue again. Then you have the opportunity to build a whole new economic zone sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
I think the Shinkansen trains had a funding approach where wherever the train stopped, the investor got a share in the increased tax revenue, which is fantastic. Because here, and if you look at real estate development, the prices go up wherever there's a lane and where there's a stop. And this is an amazing value uplift outside of centers, and it's an amazing economic boom for all of Europe. It brings Europe together. It makes Europe safe. It allows us to transport, independent of drones or rain or weather or people on the rails, as we have in Germany a lot. So excellent, yeah.
Absolutely.
3 minutes to wrap up, Eva. That's going to
Yeah,
be
I just
fast.
maybe a question to Tim. So Tim, so there is a number of investors, a number of people from the managing assets and investing money in the audience. You are approaching or you're entering next financing rounds. You'll be raising money soon. So can you say a few words about it?
Yeah, happy to do this. Our next funding milestone is an investment round of around 5 million euros, where we're already in quite advanced stage with strategic investors. Also, some of our existing shareholders are willing to join, and we have some open spots for like new venture capital funds or high net worth individuals or family offices. And we have also the luck that the European Commission is one of our investors directly, and they basically match the incoming capital. So with a commitment of 2.5 million euros in total from the private side, we can match another 2.5 million from the European Commission. And then we are at our 5 million fundraise target. And with that investment, we will achieve to go on an actual demonstration project and be able to deliver our technologies there. We will also work towards the so-called European industry harmonized Hyperloop concept, which can serve as the blueprint for Hyperloop rollout across Europe and beyond. And we're going to do a technology iteration on our key technologies, make sure they are certified, so we can actually deliver them to the upcoming demonstration projects. And these 3 elements provide, of course, a huge valuation boost of our company, which makes it a very attractive timing now to join this coming round.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you very
Sounds
much.
good.
Go, Ivan.
No, I mean, it sounds good. Yeah, you wanna close the webinar and
Yes, I think there was a beautiful last statement from Tim. So anyone who still had questions now and posted them in the Q&A chat, we will definitely get back to you and you will receive an answer. And for everyone else, you will get an email from us in the next days. So you will have all the possibilities to get in contact for further questions. We will be having this webinar. The next appointment is not set yet, but yeah, stay tuned for the next one. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, any questions not answered yet, we will get back to you. Thank you, Deborah, Tim, and Klaus for presenting the latest news, and to Ivan and Jochen as well.
Thank you. I mean, most importantly, the coffee doesn't spill as I accelerate. That really sold me today. Thank you for that. All right.
For being here.
Thanks so much for being
Yeah.
a big honor, Klaus and Deborah and Tim. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.